Hey everybody, welcome to Sid's Little Corner of the Internet. After a well-earned holiday break to spend some time with family, it's time for us to get back into the reviews. So the first one that we're going to do for you here in 2024, this is a third-party figure review from NewAge. This is the NewAge number 49 Hammond. It's their take on that G1 Wheeljack. So as we always do, let's go ahead and bring that box in and take a look. So right up here you have the NewAge logo. You have Stratos down here, number 49 Hammond. They are bragging about that immobilizer. There is his artwork. Over here you've got product shots showing him in both modes. On the back you've got him hanging out with his creations, the Dinobots there. So you've got your warning down here. It's only suitable for persons over 15 years old. NewAge over here, and on this side you've got some more product shots. Up top, product shots, start, change, finish. And then down here you have that. So two 2400cc and 370. So yeah, good stats. All right, so with that, we're going to move that box on out of the way, and then we're going to take a look at everything that came inside the packaging. Behold, laid out here before you is everything that came inside that box, and we'll start right over here. This is your little sheet of instructions, so we'll just go ahead and get those out of the way. And then we're going to work our way from the left-hand side to the right-hand side, and we're going to start with this. So this is your bonus Autobot spike arm. So this is like that build-a-figure kind of thing that some of the Marvel and DC companies are doing. So with certain NewAge purchases, you get different chunks of Autobot spike, and so far what we have is the leg. The leg came with the NewAge version of Hound, and here we have the arm, which came with that NewAge version of Wheeljack. So you can see this is definitely an arm, and you got your hand there, and then there's the inside. So not a lot to talk about here. I'm sure it'll be better once we get him all put together. Now this will be non-transforming. This is that Frankenstein-ish Autobot spike where his consciousness was put into the robot for a temporary period of time kind of thing. So we'll see what we get here with other figures as well. But as of right now, we've got an arm, we've got a leg. Articulation is pretty standard. You can move the hand around, you can flip it out, you can flip it in. Elbow, you've got double. There you go. You've got a double bend at the elbow, and then you've got the bicep rotation, and then up here at the shoulder you've got shoulder rotation, and then you will have the ability to rotate that just on that joint right there. All right, next up we're going to take a look at his pistol. So this is pretty good looking actually for its size. So not the biggest thing in the world, but hey, it looks pretty good. I like all the chrome and everything on it. So yeah, very well done. You've got a slight hollow area on the bottom right there, but other than that, no, looks really good. Next up, we're going to look at his shoulder-mounted rocket. So I think this could have used a little bit more paint, a little bit of paint, but it's got a little bit of detail on there. You've got your little tab right there to plug into his shoulder. Not a lot of hollow, but you've got a little bit up under here. And yeah, there you go. All right, next up, he's got his little toolbox. So very cool. Just a nice paint on this, kind of a glossy, little bit of detail, nothing major. So you can kind of see what's going on there. You've got a little nub in the front, and then you've got a nice little handle right there. There's the underside. And last but certainly not least, this is the famed immobilizer device. So yeah, looks pretty good. Got, of course, the fits just right, so you can put it right in his hand, and you got that sculpt work there. You got that orange paint, red paint, spinning around. See the other side, and you got the gray right up here for the upper area. So yeah, a good array of accessories that you get with this guy for the money, I think. So now that we've talked about all of those, let's go ahead and jump in and look at Hammond himself. Here he is, the bot we've all been waiting to see. This is Hammond. So let's go ahead and bring him in and take a look at his details. And I will say that for a little guy, I think he's got a good amount of detail going on. So starting with that head right there, and that is definitely a Wheeljack head if I've ever seen one. A little difficult to get a focus on there. Trying here to get something so you can get a nice close up there. And you can see you've got some good sculpt work on his lobes, whatever you want to call them. And then coming down to that chest. I do like the pearlescent paint that they used. I think that looks really good. And then coming on down to the crotch area and then those legs. It all comes together looking pretty darn good in my opinion. And then taking a look at him from the side, you can see that he compacts up, no backpack of which to speak. So pretty well done there as far as that goes. And taking a look at those feet, he does have nice big feet with big heel spurs, makes him really easy to pose, which is very appreciated. Then you got 539 coming up, taking a look at the side, comes together pretty good, no real hollow areas. Here's the underside of the arms. Speaking of the arms, let's take a look. You've got your shoulders right there, and then forearms, all looking good. A little bit of tail light action going on back there underneath the hand. And then taking a look at him from the back, looks pretty good here as well. Yeah, he's got some exposed screws and that kind of stuff, but it comes together looking pretty good. All right, so you can see, starting with that head, you can see that ball joint right there, and then you've got his little wings going on right there, and coming on back to the backs of those legs. Again, no real hollow areas of which to speak. He just comes together and does a pretty good job pulling off a Wheeljack, in my opinion. He just fits the part. So moving on to articulation, it's on par with what we would expect from NewAge. So you can move these wings if you want to. That's up to you. You've got this head. The head can go way back, so if he wants to fly, he can fly. And you've got a full 360 right there, and then you can give it a little bit of a tilt. Like when he doesn't quite understand what Grimlock's point is, you can do something like that. Coming over here to those shoulders, you can bring those shoulders up that far. You can go all the way around if you choose to do so. You have double jointed elbows, so you can get a nice deep elbow bend right there. And then you've got bicep rotation, so you can go all the way around. You do have wrist rotation, although it's a little difficult to get in there just because this piece stays where it is. It doesn't rotate with the hand, so you kind of have to, well, you can do that if you want, but don't pull him apart. You just have to get in there and move. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to bump my camera there. But you just got to kind of get in there and move those individually. So it's a little difficult, not impossible, but you do have that range of motion there if you want it. And then as far as the waist goes, you do get waist rotation. And then you have a little bit of an ab crunch. It's kind of strange. You've got a little bit of an ab crunch forward, and then you have a little bit more of an ab crunch backwards. So you do have some range of motion there. Coming over to the hips, you get some incredible splits. So you do get a Hammond Van Dam, which sounds like he could be European royalty. And then kicking forward, kick forward that far, kicking backward that far. Really, he could go a little further, but he starts running into stuff. So that's plenty of range of motion as far as I'm concerned. And then you have thigh rotation right there. So you could go all the way around. And then at the knee, these joints are kind of tight, so if I bust him apart, well, not bust, that's right, wrong term. If I move pieces that shouldn't be moved at this point, it's because the joints are kind of tight. There you've got just over 90 degrees on those knees right there. And then coming down to the feet have ankle tilt, so you can go in that far, you can go out that far, you can go down that far, you can go up that far. So you just have to kind of reset everything once you're done. But yeah, you've got good range of motion here. Definitely able to get him in all kinds of sweet poses, and because of those heel spurs, you can get him pretty much any way you want to go there. So I think articulation is pretty well done. Like I said, it's on par with what we would expect from a NewAge figure. Details look really good on this guy as well. So let's go ahead and talk about the accessories and what you can do here. Not a lot of major surprises. It's pretty much what you would expect. They're just really well done. So let me get you back where you are. There you go. Look like you're dancing now. So let's just go ahead and we'll start with the immobilizer. About the only thing you're going to do with the immobilizer is you're going to plug it into his hand, and then he's going to carry it around and immobilize things. So as you may expect. And then for the pistol, it's similar deal. You're going to plug it in. You plug in either hand. It doesn't matter. Then turn, bam, bam, pow, pow, one of those, and then now his head's going to be in the way because he's looking to the right, or let's have him look into the left for his rocket. So you just gotta use these ports up here and plug this in. Give that a squeeze, make sure it's in nice and secure, and then look at that. He's got his rocket now. So then take your pick. He's only got 2 hands. He's got 3 things to hold. So let's go ahead and remove that immobilizer. Take that immobilizer out of there, and then plug in his toolbox, and yeah, he's ready to go. Where's the action? Take him to the action. And then you can't really do anything with this, but you know, if you wanted, oh look, he's got a 3rd arm. There you go. You could do that. So there you go. Yeah, accessories are pretty cool. I don't want to say they're basic. They're quite good for this figure, but they're exactly what you would expect for this figure. So it doesn't take a lot of time to review them, and not a lot of imagination here to figure out what you need to do with them. So they plug into his hands. Voila. So now that we've talked about all that, we talked about the details, which are good, talked about the articulation, which is done very well, talked about the accessories, which are completely appropriate for this figure. Now what we will do is we will get into the transformation, and we will turn him into his car mode. So the first thing that we're going to do to transform Hammond here is rotate those tiny little hands. So this piece doesn't move. You just got to rotate the hand as best you can and do 180 degrees so they're backwards. All right, so we'll do the same thing on this hand over here. Rotate that over. There we go. And once you got the hands right there, just give these arms a pull right here. This is going to give you a disconnect from the rest of the body, and then you're going to come back here, and then you're going to lift this piece up. Just make sure, if you've got these flaps in the way, make sure you keep those from coming with it. But you're going to lift this piece up right here, and then that's going to lift that entire head assembly up just like that. And then what we're going to do is rotate that 180 degrees, and then you've got these 2 little flaps right here. You're just going to bring those down, and that makes the roof of the car. Once you have those flaps down, now you can tuck his wings in just like that. And if you want, you can go ahead and take care of the spoiler now as well. So these 2 pieces move independently of each other, and you just fold that spoiler so it's sitting like that. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to work on these arms. So it is important to pay attention to the orientation of all the pieces on the arms. So let's go ahead and get started here. You're going to take this side piece right here, and you're just going to lift that up so it's up and out of the way like that. And then you're going to just open that arm up right there so you can kind of see what you're doing. Now you've got this little flap right here. This is too small for me to grab with my hands, so I'm going to use a tool. Just going to use this rocket launcher here, and it's just going to lift that up just enough that I can grab it, and then I can bring that piece out just like that. All right, so what I'm going to do now with the arm is I'm going to give that arm a bend, and then I'm going to lift this piece up right here, up and out, and then I'm going to rotate this 180 degrees just like that, and then I'm just going to tuck that away like that. All right, so I'm going to concentrate everything just on this side first, and I want to show you how to eyeball that orientation properly. So you're going to rotate your assembly 180 degrees like that, so that way your wheel is facing outward, which makes sense. Now, next step that you're going to do is you're going to lift this up just to kind of give you a sense of where you're at. Okay, so when you're doing this, a couple things to note. You are going to have some slots right there that are going to correspond to these tabs right there, and then when you have this arm up like this, you should be able to see this little design right there. All right, so what we're going to do is take this piece right here. This is sitting on a double hinge, and we're going to bring that down, and we're going to orient it just like that. Once you've done that, now you'll see you've got this little tiny slot right there, and then you've got this little tiny tab right up underneath that tail light. So you're going to line those 2 up and put those together just like that, and then make sure you've got your this hatchback area back here set up. So now what we're going to do is we're going to bring all this forward. and then you're going to rotate that up just like that, and you will see that you've got that tab that's going to line up to that slot right there, and give that a push and tuck that away. Alright, so this is what your orientation should look like for the arm assembly. Alright, so we're going to do the same thing over here. We're going to lift this up, we're going to bring this down, and then I'm going to separate this right there, kind of spread that out, and then I'm going to rotate that 180 degrees, and then I'm going to bring that up right there, and then I'm going to rotate this 180 so that wheel is sitting on the outside, and then I'm going to double check my orientation so I don't see right here, I don't see my little design, so I want to rotate that arm so I can see that design, so it's sitting there just like that, and then bring this down. And then one thing that I do need to do, I'm going to bring this back out because I forgot to do it, is my little flap right there. So take my tool, get my little flap, bring my little flap out, and now bring this up. Rotate that around, and then I'm going to bring this in just like that. Find that tab, lock that into place, make sure everything's sitting flush as it should, and then bring this up and then push that in. So then you've got two arms completed right there, and you should have the rear of the car done. Alright, so the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to concentrate on these legs. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to change the orientation of my legs. So what you need to do here is bring the leg forward, swing this back, and then bring that down. Alright, so do the same thing over here, bring the leg forward, swing that back, and then bring that down. That's going to make sure that you've got these legs oriented properly, so when you go to tuck them away, everything fits as it should. Alright, so now that we've done that, let's go ahead and break one of these legs down. So just grab your foot right here and make sure you've got that pulled away, and then take your area that says 539, and that's going to separate from the rest of the leg. Once you get everything spread apart, there we go. So you get that spread apart right there, and then take that 539 and you're going to bring that up just like that. You're going to rotate that 180 degrees, and then you can bring that piece down just like that, or I guess, oops, just like that. So then you have this piece right here that we're going to fold over, but before we do that, I'm going to take this foot and I'm going to collapse that foot in. So right here, you've got a hinge, you're going to bring that over just like that. That's going to give you the clearance that you need now to take that piece and rotate it 180 degrees on that ball. And then you're going to bring this piece over and then push that in, and then push this foot piece in, and then slide that piece up like that. Alright, so we're going to do the same thing over here, so just kind of get that foot out of the way. There's no crime if you want to do that foot now, so go ahead and fold that in and rotate that 180 degrees if you want to. It's easier if you do it the other way, if you move all this stuff first, but that's up to you. Alright, so then once you've got that, give all this a pull, that way it all separates from each other. Bring that 539 up, rotate it 180 degrees, and then bring it down on that leg, just like that. And then you have this piece right here, you're going to bring that back on the double hinge, give that a push, and then bring this piece up, and then bring that piece up right there. And then you can take those two pieces and you can put them together. So now you have a really long version of Wheeljack or Hammond. So what you're going to need to do is just take this right here and right here. It's just going to rotate in those two spots. And then you're going to bring that up. Just like that. And then push those together. And then you're going to take these little rails right here and you're going to lift those rails up and then those are going to tab in right into those little slots on either side. And then just give everything in one more squeeze, make sure you're good. And there you have Hammond, aka Wheeljack, in his alt mode. So there you have Wheeljack or Hammond in his alt mode, and I think overall he came out looking pretty good. He's about the size of a Hot Wheels or a Matchbox car, and I think that there's a pretty good level of detail here, and I think that there's a lot of tribute paid to that original G1 Wheeljack. I think from every angle he looks pretty good. A couple minor things that I don't have a real good feeling about is just these big hinges right here where those flaps come down, but you know, for the most part, I can overlook those, and I think that he came together looking pretty good. So just thought I'd put him on the turntable here so you could get a nice unobstructed 360-degree view of him in his alt mode before we start to handle him and talk about him in this mode. But yeah, there you go. Now that we have that turntable out of the way, let's go ahead and bring him in and take a look at him in this alt mode with some nice close-ups here. Not a lot to talk about. I mean, he's got detail, but nothing that we're going to spend a tremendous amount of time on. You can see front end looks pretty good there. He's got that nice front air dam, and then looks like maybe some gray style lights, and then that grill right there. And then he's got those louvers in the hood. I think it looks pretty good. Coming around to the side, you've got that 539, and then you've got a little bit of sculpt work going on the side there, and you can see the two different sizes of wheels. So, and these are just plastic. Then of course you have the rivets right there that they used for the hubs. Still look pretty good though. I still like them way better than mushroom pegs, I'll tell you that. Then you have the translucent windshield, so you can't make out a lot of detail, but you do see that there is a little bit of transparency there where you can see inside the vehicle. Coming around to the back, you've got those orange tail lights, so a little bit of detail there, which is nice. And again, that pearlescent paint I think looks really good as well. And you've got your louvers back here, so kind of giving that fastback looking style. Oh, one thing I didn't notice or didn't note on this side that he has on this side, if you look close, he does have little door handles, so that's some good attention to detail there as well. And then you've got those intakes for those rear brakes right there. So yeah, it looks pretty good. I think his profile looks pretty good. And then here he is from the top. And here he is from the bottom. So he does have a little bit of visible head syndrome right there, but not awful, and everything else tucks away, and you can't really make out any robot chunks underneath there. So yeah, came out looking pretty good. Now, as far as articulation, he's a car. You know, there's no articulation of which to speak here. He rolls. This is a not a high friction surface, so he does roll. He just doesn't roll very well on this surface. Now, as far as his accessories go, unfortunately, unless I'm missing something, I don't really see anywhere you can do anything with the accessories except display them next to him. So you can't really have the launcher right there. You know, that would have been nice if they would have had that option or been able to do something with the pistol, but this is what we have. So, you know, unfortunately, when you have him in this mode, you're just going to have to take all this stuff and take it off to the side. So a little bit of a bummer as far as that goes, but overall, I think for a vehicle or for a figure this size, the vehicle mode came out looking pretty good. So what we'll do now is go ahead and get into some comparisons and see how he looks compared to some other vehicles out there. For our first alt mode comparison, here we see that NewAge Hammond next to the original G1 Wheeljack, and you can see just how much effort was put into Hammond to be as true as possible to that original G1 vehicle mode, and I think they've done a fine job. Moving on to our next comparison, this is Wheeljack as we saw him from Transformers Prime. Next up, this is the Transformers War for Cybertron Kingdom Wheeljack. And for our final alt mode comparison, this is the MP20 Transformers Masterpiece Wheeljack. That's going to do it for the alt mode comparisons, so let's get this guy transformed back into his bot mode. So the first thing that we're going to do to get Hammond transformed back into his bot mode is just take these little flaps on either side right here, and we're going to pull them down and rotate them around just like that. And do the same thing over here. And then once you've got those out of the way, now you can basically take this section right here and break it away from the rest of the bot. So I'm just going to put my thumb and forefinger here and then grab right here, and then I'm going to give this a pull and break that away just like that. And then once I've done that, now I'm going to flip it over here so you can see you've got it sitting on these two hinges right here, and then I'm just going to pull them down just like that. All right, once you have them like that, then you can split the legs if you want to. So let's go ahead and do that now, and then we're going to go ahead and get these legs taken care of. All right, so the first thing that we're going to do is I'm going to spread those out a little bit, and then I'm going to take these pieces right here and I'm going to bring those down just a little bit, just like that, so that way I can get this piece separated from this piece. So I'm going to give that a pull, and then that's going to be in a double hinge, and then that's going to come down just like that. Once I've done that, now I can take this foot, I'm going to flip it over here so you can see, and take this foot, it's sitting there on that ball joint like that, and then I'm going to rotate that around 180 degrees and then flip that up like that. And then I'm going to take this piece right here, flip that around, and drop this. Don't forget to drop this piece right here. And there we go. All right. Next thing I'm going to do is take this section right here that's got 539 on it. I'm going to grab that. I'm going to pull that back, rotate that 180 degrees, and then I'm going to bring this down. And when I do, I've got this little tab type area right here that's going to go to this slot right there. So just going to line those up, get that down there, put that where it belongs, and then give those a squeeze, and then you have one leg done. All right, so I'm going to move on to the next one. So take that, just give that a little bit of a space, and then bring that toe down just like that, and give this a pull right here. That's going to come down on that double hinge, and then I'm going to come over here, and then I'm going to flip this 180 degrees. Oh, and I'm not going to take that off of the ball joint. That's not necessary. It comes off easily, but it's not something that you should do. There we go. Sorry for that edit. Now that we have the legs completed, we're just going to get them oriented in the right fashion. So we're going to bring that leg forward, bring those around, and then bring those down. And do the same thing here. Bring it forward, bring it around, bring it down. And then you've got those legs oriented as they should be for the bot mode. All right, so the next thing that we're going to do is, while I'm up here, actually, I'm just going to go ahead and take these spoilers and squeeze them together so they're sitting vertical like that. They don't have to be perfect, just as long as you get them there. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use these spoilers as leverage while I pull on this and pull those arms down right there. I'm just going to separate those arms from that hatchback area. Then I'm going to bring this up, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to spin this arm around 180 degrees just to give myself the room that I'm going to need. So now what I can do is grab right here, and then I can separate that piece from the arm, and then I'm just going to bring that down as such, and then I'm going to flip this little flap down right there to get it out of my way. Now the next thing I'm going to do is lift this arm. So this arm is folded in on itself, and it's also doubled up right in this area right here. So I'm just going to lift it up like that to separate it from each other. So then I can rotate this 180 degrees, and then I can bring this fist up on that double hinge and finish that arm out as such. All right, so we're going to do the same thing on this side. We're going to lift this up, rotate this 180 degrees, separate that right there and bring it down, close that little flap, and then you've got this arm area right here, so you can bring that up, and then you can separate this piece right here, which for whatever reason it's always more difficult for me on this side. Rotate that around and then bring that down just like that. And then once you have those right there, now you can bring these down the rest of the way. So then you're just going to bring this down just like this. And then once you've done that, now you can take this assembly right here and bring these together and then rotate this 180 degrees. Just keep in mind to clear the head. And then you can bring these wings out, and then you can bring this piece down and bring this piece down as well. And then you can use these flaps right here to capture that back section. And then just give everything a squeeze right there, and you should have something that looks like that. So now we can come over here and finish the arms. So you're just going to bring those down into a natural position and then take those fists and rotate those fists 180 degrees. Bring those arms down and then take those fists, that last one, and rotate 180 degrees. And then the last thing that we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we've got the arms, you've got little tabs and slots right there. Make sure that we've got those tucked in, nice and secure. Make sure his wings are as they should be. And there you have Hammond back in his bot mode. For our first bot mode comparison, here we see that NewAge Hammond on the left, and on the right is that original G1 Wheeljack. Next up is the Transformers Prime Wheeljack, representing the War for Cybertron line. This is the Transformers War for Cybertron Kingdom Wheeljack. And I've got to say, at least in my opinion, these two look really good together. This is the Masterpiece MP20 Wheeljack next to Little Hammond. Now we're going to do a couple of NewAge comparisons just so you could see these legend scale figures, how they stack up to each other. And this first one here, this is the NewAge Scott. This is their take on Hound. And I've gone ahead and I've thrown in the leg, the Autobot spike leg that comes with Hound as part of that Build-A-Figure assortment, if you will. And I've gone ahead, just again as another point of reference, throwing that spike arm in there for you as well. Next up is one of Wheeljack's creations, at least according to that G1 lore. This is the NewAge Frere, their take on that G1 swoop. And you can see these are both legend scale, and you can see just how much bigger these Dinobots are in this scale in comparison to the regular Autobots. And now for our final bot mode comparison, and this one I think is a lot of fun just simply because, you know, Wheeljack made the Dinobots. So here we have Hammond with the NewAge Dinobots, or at least what we have so far. So over here is the NewAge Ymir, their take on Grimlock, Frere in the back, their take on Swoop, and Rhedosaurus, their take on Sludge. So there you go. All right, that's going to do it for the comparison. So let's go ahead and get into those final thoughts. So there you have the NewAge Hammond, their take on an itty-bitty legend-scaled Wheeljack. And I think that for the most part, this figure came out really well. I think they may have cooked him a little too long in the engineering department, but what ended up coming out of that proverbial oven, I think, is a good-looking little figure. So let's go ahead and just jump right into it. And we'll start with the overall looks, the aesthetic that he brings. And I think it's a good one. I like the way he looks in both modes. I enjoy the paint on this guy. I think that pearlescent paint looks really good. The bot mode, I think, for the price, for the size, is almost as good as you're going to get. If I'm going to pick on anything, I'm going to say that that chest area, as it tapers down to the waist, well, it does not taper down to the waist. It's actually quite square, and that's what I would say that my biggest issue is. He just doesn't have that typical male V taper kind of look. He's just square down here on the bottom. But I can forgive it. For everything else that you get in this figure, I'm not going to worry too much about it. Alt mode, additionally, is really good, except for those large hinges that are really visible right in front of those rear wheels. But I think for the price, what you get here is just a really good looking figure in both modes. I'm going to give him a 9 out of 10 for overall looks. Now moving on to the articulation, I think the articulation is very well done. Again, for a figure this size, to pack in what they have, I think they've done a fine job. You have double hinged elbows. You've got great range of motion in those arms and those legs and everything. A couple of things that I would say is I think the ab crunch is kind of weird. You kind of get a little bit of an ab crunch, but you get more backwards than you do forwards. It's a little strange, and I'm longing for more ankle tilt. So you can get a few degrees as far as the ankle tilt goes, but as far as I'm concerned, you don't get enough. I would have liked to have seen a few more degrees in there. Really would have taken it up a notch as far as the overall posing. But everything else, you can pretty much do what you want to do with this guy, and he's got nice big heel spurs, so he's plenty stable. So I'm going to give him an 8 out of 10 for articulation. Now, moving on to the accessories. There is nothing wrong with these accessories. I just have to say that they are not particularly exciting for me, so I'm going to say this is what is expected. So these are the things that Wheeljack used throughout the different episodes, and it makes total and perfect sense. You've got a really good looking little pistol. You've got his rocket launcher that I would have liked to have seen some different type of paint other than just kind of drab gray. You've got that cool little toolbox that doesn't do anything except he holds it. You've got the immobilizer, which, you know, he's got 3 things to hold and only 2 hands in which to hold them, so you got to take your pick there. And then, of course, you have that Build-A-Figure arm for Autobot Spike. So I think the accessories here are pretty cool. They just don't get me super excited, but I'm going to give credit where it's due here. You do get a lot for the price, so I'm going to give him an 8 out of 10 for those accessories. Now, moving on to overall quality. Typically speaking, for NewAge, they do a really good job with quality. This guy is pretty much on par. I've got a few minor issues with him, but the way he transforms, all of his accessories, all that stuff is exactly as you would expect. Most of the joints on this guy are tight, but there are a couple of points that I find annoying. Thankfully, not necessarily detrimental, but annoying. Number one, going back to that ab crunch, that thing is super loose. It almost feels like all you have to do is look at it, and it's going to knock him out of the position you wanted him in. So I would have liked to have seen a much tighter ab crunch there. And then the splits for the hips, not kicking forward and back, but the actual splits, they're just a little looser than I would have liked. So that's a little on the disappointing side from NewAge for those 2 areas. Right now, like I say, they're more of an annoyance than they are detrimental to the figure, but it's just not up to what my expectations are for NewAge quality. So I'm going to give him an 8 out of 10 for overall quality. So coming to our last bullet, which is overall value, I will say that I think for the price that I paid, there's a lot of value in this figure. You get a lot, and dare I say a lot more than what you get for main lines of similar price. So I will tell you that this was a pre-order. Admittedly, I've had this guy for a while now. Almost all of my pre-orders are in. It's just taken me a long time to get through the reviews, what with life and other things going on. But this guy originally was a pre-order from Shozy Store. I paid $37 US for this figure, and I think that is an absolutely wonderful price to pay for what you get. Yes, he's small, but he is just packed with all kinds of fun and packed with some great engineering. So I don't have any issues whatsoever with the price. I would have liked to have maybe seen a few dollars less, but I think for what you pay here, I think it's pretty good. I'm going to give him a 9 out of 10 for overall value. So that brings us to our grand total. Out of a possible 50 points, NewAge Hammond gets 42 out of 50. It sounds like a slightly lower score than what you might expect, which 80%. However, he's just got a couple of 8s on a few of the items. And other than that, he excels in everything that he does. A couple of last minute notes here, just something to think about. There's a possibility, like I said earlier, he was slightly over-engineered. This guy is probably more complex to transform than what he needed to be, but I think what they pulled off here with the transformation and the design is pretty good. So I can't complain too much about it other than to say, once you get through the transformation a few times and you do it, it starts flowing a little bit easier, but getting it those first couple of times can be really annoying. And then as far as that goes too, he's a little guy, so if you've got larger hands, it's going to be difficult to grab some of those things. And you saw during the transformation segment, I actually used his rocket launcher as a tool for some of those panels that I couldn't get with my own fingers that I had to use tools for. So just something to think about there. But overall, I think he's a good figure. So with that, that's going to wrap it up. I hope you guys got some good information. Hope you got some entertainment out of this. And if you haven't already done so, be sure to hit the like button. Be sure to subscribe. Leave a comment if you feel like it. And one last favor to ask, if you know of anyone that would like what we do at this channel, please feel free to share this video, share the channel with them. It's always fun to watch that community grow. So with that, it's going to wrap it up until we see you guys in the next one. Take care.